Broadcasting from occupied territories or the flea media, it's the Reality Dysfunction podcast. A space where a diverse group of brown folk from across the nation explore the political experiences and social future of our Chicano Latino community. Control the narrative. Resist the dysfunction.
Hey everyone, glad to be back. This is Dr. Ernesto Mireles. I'm here with Scott Duncan, Colton Campbell, and Alex Garcia. And tonight we're going to talk about Sleep Dealer. It's a movie that came out, I think, in 2014. And it was directed by and written by a gentleman named Alex Rivera. Awesome movie, set in the very near future. I like movies that are set in the very near future. At a time when the border is completely closed off, the border between the United States and Mexico is completely closed off, but labor is able to transport through the use of cybernetic implants. And so people on the Mexican side, the maquilas that are there, they go and they plug into these machines and they're able to operate machinery in the United States remotely through their implants. And so that's kind of the overview of the movie. But I think there's a lot more that's going on with it. Oh, absolutely, Colton. Jump right in. Yep.
Sorry, small correction. It was 2008. So it's even more pertinent in terms of the labor situation, I think, and the economic situation in the United States, that it came out during the financial crisis.
Yes. Well, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So we were just kind of talking about this before we started recording, and really I think, one of the things that we were really thinking about, and Colton just alluded to this, is that the movie itself is very prescient in terms of like it's just calling it right down the road, right? And so I think it's one of those things that shows the power of fiction as it turns into reality. But we were talking about how it relates to what's happening in Los Angeles right now, and I wonder if anybody wants to just kind of take that away, or just jump onto the whatever point it is that you want to bring up right now.
I'd like to do a spoiler. Basically, Chicanismo is the answer to this, right? Like having reconnecting yourself to your culture, to your land, to your humanity, and that's something that this settler system takes away. I mean, we can see this in the streets of LA because they have people in military outfits, like, body armor and the helmets and machine guns and crowd control stuff to go after, this, children, innocent working class people who don't, I mean, it is LA, but ostensibly let's pretend none of them have any guns, right? But I'm not going after some people I know, but like but it's, it's unequal. It's there's also what brings to me mind is the machine. The machine's a big idea in this. It's the system, is exploitation. These people that the ICE with their masks and some senators trying to make it illegal to find the identity of an ICE agent, right? It's like, so they're okay to be faceless, but they're part of the machine. They're part of the inhumanity, and that's really what this movie's about. Like, Memo is the, like he wants to go someplace. He's kind of like, Vato, like Luke Skywalker, but he's on the wrong path, right? He doesn't know that his father's telling him, the milpa is is your inheritance, and it's gone. They took it from you, right? You should. They took the water. They took a milpa, and I'm fighting to keep it, just to keep it around so you can have it. He wants to listen in. He wants the technology. He wants the machine, right? He wants to know there's a bigger world. He's looking down upon his own people because he's taught through media. He's taught through education. He had the videos, or like the TV shows they watch, are exploitative. They're telling them, like, watch us take out these terrorists, right? The terrorist, his father, a farmer, right?
I think the term is like a future without a past. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. A future without a past. And he buys into it and he pays a price, but it's but honestly, I mean, I know I'm going hard on this, but like for me, he was trapped. I think there are a lot of movies that mirror this movie, but he is trapped in the commodification of the dream. He's trying to get that back. he doesn't know how, right? This survival is making it so he's trying to he has these dreams, and his girlfriend is buying them. They're the locks in this capitalist exchange, trying to regain their humanity, and they can't do it. But Chicanismo was the answer, because the guy who actually questioned, because he was there and he saw his father, the drone pilot. What was his name? Not Rudy. He sees the father about to get shot. I mean, he shot the father, right? And then he questioned what he's being told, right? And then he's the instigator. So, and eventually he starts finding out more about what happened, and he wants to do restitutions. And restitution is helping out the community. And that's another difference between this movie and other movies. Like that, most of the time, the answer for particularly like white movies, we call it, is the individual, yeah, gets back with their family, but that it ultimately is meaningless for the community, right? And there's no question of the system, or there's just white saviorism. But for here, they got Memo. They bring down the dam that brings water back to the community. He may still be on the run, but his community is restored. Like the dream's restored. Maybe not for him, but for other folks.
I think it's interesting that we're in the near past of Sleep Dealer, like right now. We're talking about like what is the end game of what's happening in LA? Is it a demographic thing? Is it financial? Is it political? Is it just flexing your power? And I think what we sort of came to and what we were thinking about was that we're heading towards maquiladora states, places that are separate from the United States demographically, economically, but still, completely linked. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like what's happening in LA, Sleep Dealer is the end game.
They want us disconnected from ourselves, from each other, so they can extract the most from us, right?
Well,
And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, we're already disconnected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's I mean, there's no question about the alienation that each one of us experience, and we experience like in that classic Marxist sense that we're alienated from, our labor and all that other kind of stuff. But I have a hard time imagining that Marx could have really grasped the level of alienation that exists in society that we live in today. So, I mean, even the idea you brought up, the girlfriend, who I think is, played very well. Excellent character, I think has some depth, in terms of how they portray like their responsibility to other people, particularly to Memo. But I mean, she sells her very thoughts, right, as goods, and it's even much more so than I think on another level, like people who write or writers, right? Writers also sell their thoughts, but she's literally selling her thoughts, the images that she sees and the way that she reconstructs them, which I think is also very interesting too, right? Is that she's reconstructing what she sees into a story. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it just really
Sorry.
talks, I think, and really shows how reality is warped or distorted, or how you have this sort of like things become extremely contextual in terms of like point of view. And I think that this is a big piece of what's happening in this movie also.
For me, she's also mirroring. She's like a piece for the director, right? That's what the director's doing. They're putting someone that's a bit outside, putting it together, who's creating this, right? Like selling out their thought, like it's not selling out, but their thoughts. The thing I'm laughing about is that this has been like a big, conversation. That to me, they're like, what worldview you construct as a memoir, as your thoughts or whatever, it's still fiction. It's still a like human construct, just as much as fiction is. And people get very upset because it goes, but it's been a long conversation I've had for quite some time. But that goes into it. So really, but the machine is telling her, tell the truth here. You have to put this here. But at some point, she chooses, I'm not giving everything to be distorted and so be commodified. So she makes a choice where like where does her humanity start? Where am I? She draws a line in the sand. And of course, when she's contacted, then that's that's even she goes even further. She cuts down. She stops working for stops working for the enemy essentially, right? And she helps Rudy and Memo bring water back to the land.
So if I can like sort of sharpen it, this question, and take it to writers, in terms of politics and technology, how has the importance of this writer character as a mediator between the first and third world changed since Sleep Dealer was released? And I'm talking specifically about the fidelity of technology, where we have to increasingly confess to that technology in order to be considered a writer or someone who can bridge the gap. I just wanted to hear your thoughts and stuff.
What I got out of that question, or at least what popped in my mind, was data retrieval, and basically Facebook or algorithms and systems utilizing our personal information to sell us something else. I know it's not necessarily answering the question, but that's one thing that popped in mind while you brought it up. There's parts in here where it's like, is this kind of like hinting at OnlyFans before OnlyFans? You know what I mean? Not necessarily that it's like sexual stuff she's like putting out there, but it's personal things, and it's for somebody to buy. It's monetized.
Yeah, that confessional idea is like scientia sexualis, like Foucault says that, increasingly you are going to have to confess instead of just do the thing. Yeah.
That's the other thing. This is, I mean, a bit, maybe a decade beyond or perhaps, but most of you guys, except for Ernesto here, are too young to remember when blogs became a thing, right? Because
there's a whiff of that. That's it's in there,
because well, when it became a thing, it was like, why would you put your diary online? That's what they wrecked. Why would you expose yourself in such a manner that people were like, I was a little shocked because like I'm thinking, if I'm going to write something, it's going to be something like I'm ready to share rather than something like that's like so like temporal for like maybe what I did on what kind of breakfast I had and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, so that I would say the technology is still freeing and limiting as all it does. Like we are connected, like even to Mexico, right? Like you can plug another I'm not sure I say event, but Planeta Poeta with the Xicanx. She brings together mostly poets from the U.S. and poets from Mexico. And it's a bridge, very mostly like many Chicanos and many Mexicans, right? Like I'm bad at Spanglish, and because of technology, I was able to talk to a guy who about his book. It is much like my book, to be honest. It's a poetry book though, that was like in Spanish, and he was speaking Spanish, like Mexican Spanish, and but we're connected, right? We were able to talk and like feel that we both were doing like something along the same path, right? And also what we're doing right now. I mean, I'm looking at Ernesto and Colton and the logo of El Indio copyright 1985 here, and a cat. So this has brought us together. So there are ways to not be commodified, right? And it's looking for them because a lot of things are like about selling out and about taking what's wholly your humanity, what people say, right, and making it something to cheap and pass it around.
I would say that I don't think there's any way to escape commodification in the world that we live in the society that we live in. I think that
buy that for $1. Sorry,
right? Citizen. I think though that what becomes important is, and this may sound a little weird, is embracing that commodification to the extent that we name it, we recognize it. I think that it's also important to think of the confession as a commodification, right? That in fact it's what allows us to move forward lots of times politically. When you have a pornography industry that's like the biggest thing that's happening on the internet, there's not a lot left to confess.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I
not
think
really.
that's
You know,
that's what I was saying earlier about like this is kind of like OnlyFans,
Yeah,
but
I see
without
what you're saying.
the
well,
sex
no,
stuff.
and what I would say to that, Alex, is that I mean, the intimacy of actually sharing your actual thoughts, right? The vision that you had. I think that there's
And
something,
experiences that
yeah,
too.
the
Like
experience
with
is something very
Strange
intimate
Days.
about
Do you
that.
remember Strange Days? Came out in the 90s. It had who was um
Uh,
Obi-Wan Kenobi's Give Me Back My Son. Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Master.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ralph Fiennes.
No,
yeah,
no,
He's in
he's an
there.
Irish guy.
but isn't he in that movie?
He
Strange
might be
Days,
in that
isn't it?
movie, but
He is. Yeah.
it's been decades since I've seen it.
Voldemort?
But
Yes.
they're selling experiences, right? And the most horrible, like one of the climax in the movies where the villain hooks up they get into darker and darker stuff, and the villain captures somebody and assaults them and puts on the capture card on their brain so they can see themselves being assaulted. And so
You know,
it's
this kind of reminds me of leather stocking tales, where white people indigenize themselves
oh
and use like literature or an experiential knowledge, some sort of narrative structure, and then just insert themselves in there as the original person.
yeah.
I mean, it's assimilationist and genocidal in its logic, but then so sharpened in terms of technology from, the leather stocking tales to your whole life is on TikTok.
Actually, in Latinx Files, one thing that really struck me when I read was like the I mean he didn't put it this way, but the settler can rent even the condition of the colonized, right? So that's why you see like that 1980s movie called V. You guys
Hmm.
you remember V?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Where
aliens.
aliens land,
Hmm.
that you rip off their skin, they're lizards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a little bit of a joke for them to doing that, for them to be doing that on this continent. Why are they doing it? They throw some, like hint, Nazi stuff in there too to make
Yeah.
seem, justified, whatever, that they're the ones that are rebels, or they're not the ones that are oppressors. But honestly, like they're filming, they're the oppressors here. Like look who owns everything. Look who is safe. Look who is, it goes down the line. And so yeah, it's them renting, being nervous about many things. Like a lot of their shows, a lot of their movies, a lot of their books are about, can we be like the cowboys of yore and keep the empire going? For me, that's what they're worried about all the time, and that comes out in fiction. That's why they're punching a bug-eyed monster that has a sombrero and a Fu Manchu. Yeah, because
Hey man, if there's one thing to note about this movie, I felt that after watching it, like they fit. Am I wrong? Isn't the movie like 90 minutes? Isn't it like an hour and a half or something?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, it's a short movie, but I felt while I was watching it, it encapsulates, or it has in it, like it's so potent.
yeah,
It's going over one thing we haven't talked about yet is like the Chicano Paisa divide. And the Chicano is the one, like he's in the military and he's droning basically. They're both doing the same thing. One is, being exploited and, using that money to fund his family back, at the, at the farm and the rancho. And then you have this Chicano, like on the other side, bombing them,
his factory's
the
death.
guilt.
Yeah,
And then,
For sure.
it just it's so layered and dense. I'm like, was this really just an hour and a half? I felt when I was watching it, I wasn't paying attention to time, and I mean, I just assumed by what was being covered, it was only 90 minutes. I felt not in a bad way. Like this is like a 3-hour movie, And I was
this
shocked
movie is
when I
like the
finished.
only one around. The other ones are pretty. I mean, like we don't have Chicano sci-fi movies per se, other than this. And this guy, like I would say he's Chicano, but he's not. He's actually Chicano adjacent, right? You might say, but like for me, the representation, this seeing brown people in future stuff, that's not like
Yeah, man, it's
that's
something
not.
else.
I want to die for you as fast as I can, Mr. Blonde White Guy,
Yeah,
or I'm gonna steal, what are there still, what I'm saying? It's like or there's not just one, or one Mexican out of the entire galaxy, of
Yeah.
white people.
We're like front and center here,
Yeah, and I don't like. I mean, I'm not trying to. But like, I feel this certain feeling. Also, when I look at some of like Alex's artwork, like I
Thanks. Yeah.
don't know. It's like it's strange because, or it's also when Ernest Hogan's High Aztec, like
Yeah.
hadn't come across. It's like something that you didn't know you need, and it's odd, right? You don't have. It's not just about representation. It's like validation in a certain manner that like we grow up with like you don't exist, you don't have value. Like even in these imaginative, there's no imagination for you, right? You have to be. You have to follow Captain Kirk and gringos in green face paint like Mr. Spock, and or pretending to be Scott, whatever, right? There's nobody like you in the universe. And if even, I understand what's his name? Khan was actually a Spaniard, but like even the Mexican has to be called an Indian, like a guy from India, right? But so it's like we're displaced. We displace ourselves every time we read a book because we're never the center, right? Most American books, we're not supposed to be through a Chicano lens unless it's a Chicano author. And then the same thing goes for movies. And for this, whether you're a coconut or not, these are your people, whether they're South American actors or not, right?
La raza, yeah.
Yeah, but it's your story, and it's odd to watch. And this is like there needs to be more, obviously. And there's some closer ones like Blue Beetle that gets close, but it's better than I thought it would be. But Sleep Dealer, it's got issues that affect us. It's got actors in it that are Mexican and brown, and it's a strange thing to see because to know that you're, even though at this like horrible olden age I am, that even now I could look at something and it's something I should have had when I was like 5 years old.
I think that is almost the end of the movie, that the agent decides without much couching just to go south. And I was kind of confused by it, and I was like,
Yeah.
we discussed it, why not go back north? Why not go try to make change? But then he is given the ability to imagine a life outside of America or
That's right.
outside of those bounds. And that is the important part, that he is given almost a pass to his future again. Yeah, where he's searching in the past for his future. He's given an imagination.
He's returning to the milpa, is what he's doing. I mean, the entire opening of the movie, in terms of thinking about the milpa, the cornfield, right? I mean, what that's doing is really establishing. It's like historicizing this whole story within 4,000 years of maize culture, right? And so, I mean, and you look at movies that Mexicans or Chicanos, I think Chicanos, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not real up on Mexican cinema. But I do pretty good here in the United States. I mean, the milpa is it's a reoccurring theme in a lot of different movies, and it really sort of sets the stage for resistance, right? I mean, they blow the dam for water so they can grow the corn, right? I mean, this is that civilizational impulse that people talk about in terms of maize culture and the things that we have come, or the ways that we have come to understand the world.
They're not only reconnected to their maize culture and the ability to re-engage with it, they're also able to survive outside of the the neoliberal culture. Because now they can grow their own corn and drink their own water without.
Colton, I think that the point that you made about Rudy, who's played by Jacob Vargas in the movie, the drone operator, I think it's a really good one. I really do, and I think that's why he went south. Because
I like that idea, but of course, like I'm thinking, like this is not. I think a lot of times you come across the idea that there's Mexico, then Gringolandia, right? This isn't Gringolandia. This is occupied Aztlan. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was disappointed.
That's a good title, man.
Yeah, you could take that.
No, somebody here mentioned, and I might have gone over my head as I was watching the movie. What was it? A future with no past?
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, the past is, so it gets brought up at the beginning with the dad, and it gets kind of brushed off by the son. And then it gets brought up in the middle where the girlfriend, or, his hyena basically, she's like, is it true that the corn grows, but it only stands because the beans hold it up? And he's like, yeah, that's the way it works. I can't remember exactly. That was like halfway through the movie. And then it comes back at the end. Yeah, the milpa, and according to Native Americans on this side, it's las tres hermanas, the three sisters, the corn or the maíz, los frijoles, and las calabazas. And that got me, man. I don't know. And when they're saying no, a future with no past, that's what gets reversed by the end of the movie. No, go back to your past. Like, we're saying these things, but that's what's being trying to be cut off. And so me, being Chicano, being Mexican, not even knowing, I know it's there. I know I know I've seen it, and I know it's out there, but either you call it las tres hermanas or the three sisters, the way they say it over here, or the way we say it over there, milpa. It's common knowledge, and yet it's not being handed down. And I felt a certain way about that. Like, man, how come my dad didn't tell me about that? Did he know about that? And I know he did. He grew up in the rancho. Like, you have to grow your shit. You have to grow your. So I connected very strongly with the dad, or with the kid, of course. The Chicano, the Pocho, or the guy wanting to go off into technology away from the peasant Indio culture of growing this and that. And now I'm at a point where no, we need to go back to that. Otherwise, we're just gonna be what they're telling us to do. Let it go. Everything's the human race. We're all a melting pot. That kind of narrative that I was duped into believing as being, quote unquote, progressive. Nah, dude. The milpa is what brought civilization to this side of the world. Not the New World, not the Americas, to ourselves. And if we don't retain that, if we don't know how to make tamales, we don't know how to make tortilla, tlaxcali, I guess, if you want to call it that. If we don't know how to do these things, we're losing that, and we're living the way the movie is pushing the agenda, or they're being told a future with no past. Yeah, no, I don't want to live that way. You know what I mean? I want to at least acknowledge and try to remember it, or have it in my mind, but actually maybe in some way either preserve it, and at the very most practice it.
I think it's I just keep thinking about this idea now that when we dream, we never remember what we were doing before the dream.
Yeah.
You just you're in the dream and you're doing the thing, and then even
yeah.
The only way that you can lucid dream or gain control over the dream is that you remember the past, and you remember that you went into the dream in the first place. I think that's a really interesting idea, and just in terms of time and history, and I guess this mirage that comes over it, that you have to remember that at some point you fell asleep.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. That's not living history, our own history.
I mean, the stated purpose of a future with no history, I mean, that is summed up unpoetically as settler colonialism. That is the state that we find ourselves in as conquered, colonized people, right? Is that we have a future, but we don't have a history. And we have a future
literally attack
without
our
a
history
history.
and ban it.
It also
ban it. Yeah.
That mantra, or that law, or that statement, or whatever, that rule, it sounds a whole lot like 1984, where there's what is their thing? I can't remember it right, but it's something like what was it, Mireles? I know you know this. They have this.
We are at war with Oceania. We have always been at war with Oceania.
Yeah,
it's been at war with Oceania. Double plus two.
That's it.
But they know it was
always there. Yeah,
it's something else. It's
double speak.
It's something else. Yeah.
It's called double.
But
speak.
he said it's summed up in another way where they say something like, "Oh no, yeah, peace is war.
Yeah,
freedom is slavery, or something like that."
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's so contradictory. It makes no goddamn sense. And people are eating up well, this is just the way it is. And that parallel right there, it didn't hit me until we were talking just through this discussion. Oh shit, that's Orwellian kind of like. And again, this is coming from we could say it's Chicano adjacent, but or Mexican adjacent, but it's raza, dude. Like
Yeah,
this guy's
yeah.
putting it out there, and am I mistaken? Like, was this the kid, the main actor? Wasn't this his first role?
I think so.
And then on top of that, who's his brother? Are we gonna talk about that?
Oh, that's right. His brother is
Namor.
who is he?
He's Namor. He's
Yeah,
the
that's right.
future. He's
Yeah.
the future right now
Oh,
in
that's him?
Marvel.
I didn't
What's his-
recognize
That's
him.
not that was Namor. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this is Namor. We're
Wow.
watching the dude.
I still gotta watch that. I still gotta
Damn.
watch the
You're so
Wakanda
right.
Forever.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Look, I haven't caught up with my movies, but this guy, the
Yeah.
only reason why I watched Black Panther, I love Black Panther, the first one.
I
The
love the
second one,
first one. Yeah.
I heard like, oh, there's gonna be some Mexican stuff, and it got a lot of criticism because it's too much Mexicans. Like I thought it was supposed to be Wakanda. And no, they're setting the stage. I feel like, nah, dude, we're gonna try to capture that market, and they found this guy, and he's gone so far as no,
What's his
it's
name?
Zapata.
What's
He
his
plays
name?
Zapata, Huerta, something Huerta.
Yeah, it's
Tinoch? Tinoch?
Tenoch. That's
Tenoch
it.
Huerta,
Tenoch
yeah.
Huerta. Yeah.
And
yeah.
this was like brown and proud. Like, I don't know about his personal life. I don't know what his ideals are, but he has, I think, a book maybe or a movie about like Prieto and like Orgulloso, like proud of being dark, proud of
Yeah.
being like indigenous, essentially.
Yeah.
And he's
can
just
say
like a
something
side
about
character in this
Chicano
movie.
The other thing that you're mentioning that you make me think, Alex, is that as far as like our intersection with sci-fi, it's in quite a lot, or speculative, right? It's in our literature, it's in the culture. Ernest Hogan said, "Sci-fi, it's a Chicano state of being," right? Like wrote that with a Chicano Nautica manifesto or something like that. And it's true. I mean, I often tell people that what do you call it? Bless Me Ultima is like Chicano Harry Potter.
It's
Yeah, it does have a lot of magical like.
Got a lot of witches,
I
Good
yeah,
witch, bad witch.
I revisited that, and bro, like, shameless plug, my shit that I'm trying to put out there, I'm labeling it as 1, 2, 3, 4, and on. And then where did I learn that? And I remember when I read it I remember I knew that from somewhere when I read it in college when I was introduced to my Chicano studies class, and and then I was listening to it. I'm a truck driver, and I'm trying to find things to pull from, and things that reminded me of when I was first inspired as a Chicano, and thinking critically, and then there it is, boom, uno, dos. Every
Oh, yeah.
chapter is a number. I'm like, oh, that's where I got it from. It was so impressive to me, and it laid an egg or it planted a seed that kind of worked its way out of me into on now my own like writing. And yeah, like Scott, you were saying, Scott, there's definitely room for it, and the little that we get, we eat it up,
Oh, yeah.
and it's apparently it stuck with me to the point where I'm copying it like subconsciously,
Is it
and
still?
like
Oh, sorry.
I latched to it. I latched onto it, and I didn't even know. But I feel genuinely like you're saying. It's only because I want that. Like we need more of this, and like
Yeah.
I'm mimicking what I appreciated the first time around without even realizing it until like I had to revisit it, go back.
That area is not far from where my grandfather grew up. He would have been the brother of the main character coming back from the war. So it's it was definitely a cultural item for me as well. The thing that's funny about it is like I'm not sure if they require it in schools anymore. 'Cause they used to. I used to work at a bookstore. They would pass every book clerk to get to me and ask me to buy where is Bless Me Ultima because I got to know
Isn't
where
it?
it is.
Isn't it one of those? Wasn't it one of the banned Arizona books? Am I wrong? Or
Yeah,
It must have been.
it was. Yeah.
Really?
But I mean,
yeah, Mireles would know. He's a professor.
they banned everything.
They banned
Yeah.
stuff not by Mexicans that they called Mexican. Seriously.
Yeah.
Why would
It's
they like?
pretty strange.
And why would they ban that book? Like like I don't know.
I mean, they banned it for the same reason that they would ban a movie like this or whatever. I mean, like the kind of conversations that we have, like lots of times I think we throw these words around, sort of loosely. We talk about science fiction, but I don't think that we can label Chicano fiction as science fiction. I think that is speculative fiction.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that I mean, you look at Sleep Dealer. Sleep Dealer is not science fiction. Sleep Dealer is speculative fiction, right? Because
It's
what
yeah, it's more in the area of predictive, like, no, this is kind of what it's
right.
gonna be.
Well,
Yeah.
this is what's gonna, this is we see this, right? Like
It- yeah.
this is a real outcome, right? And
Mm,
so I think
yeah.
that the
Looking
other
for a
thing,
solution.
well, I mean, kind of it's looking for a solution. I think that what it does is it presents us the solution within the first 5 minutes of the movie, to be very
Yeah,
honest
that's
with
true.
you.
True.
And I
Yeah.
think that the solution is this return to history, right? This sort of regaining like this, personality. I think the other thing that's really fascinating about this movie is that I would also put this in the sort of racialized horror kind of
Mm.
category, right? Very similar to Get Out,
Mm.
but
Oh yeah.
from a Chicano perspective, right? From an indigenous perspective, because I mean you see the same things happening, right? I mean, but but they're kind of opposite from each other. In Get Out, the black body is coveted, is desired, right? But
Yeah.
the mentality is or the perceived mentality is not, right? Which is where you also get into these issues of double consciousness as people are submerged, right? And then these other personalities take over. In this particular instance, the brown body is not coveted, right? But
Mm.
its ability to work is coveted,
Exploited. Yeah.
exploited, right? And so, I mean, there is an element of horror in this. I think that people are forced to mutilate their bodies to
Uh,
become like cybernetic units, right? Or they're certainly becoming cyborgs in the sense that they're part machine and part person.
Yeah.
And so there's this element of horror that is involved in that, right? In this
it,
It's imbibing the
unnecessary.
system.
it's
It's imbibing the
it's
system.
it's manifested that horror that it turns into mutilation basically when you find out the harder you work, the more likely you're going to go blind.
I
Yeah.
And
I
that was an element that was in there that was kind of trippy, and they bored it on, like, and they showed him kind of like he's irritated with his eyes, and but you see it around him, like the poor people. My grandma lives in those areas
Yeah.
where it's like it's the hills of Tijuana, and it's just it I used to go there all the time when I was a kid, and I didn't think of it, but now that I reflect on it, and as I got older, I'm looking at it. It looks and feels like Slumdog Millionaire. It's just like,
Yeah.
I didn't, I don't say took it for granted. I just wasn't seeing it that way. But seeing
Well, you're seeing
my
people. Yeah, I mean that's a little
see-
different, right?
seeing
Like, yeah.
people no, seeing people like um a dead dog's carcass because they had a dog fight the night before. My grandpa, or my step grandpa that my grandma hooked up with after her first husband or husbands, with no foot, diabetes. And these things existed as I was there, or walking through like a big ass pile of trash and is burning on the other side. And well, that's just what we do here. When I was a kid, they tell me all the time, when you were a kid and we go to Tijuana, you know what you would say? Yeah, like I would say, mi tias told me this, my sister, my mom told me this, and they joke about it. Like I had such a smart mouth on me, like I would like sleep, and then when we finally got there, and I like the way I am. Are we in Tijuana already? Like it smells like trash, you know?
Oh my God.
And like and I would put it in that way, and like they knew that I wasn't lying, and that was my signal. It really was crossing the border, knowing that we're here because that's the condition it's in, and that's the condition that's being displayed in the movie, in the sense that you have these old blind men basically. They worked all they could and they gave everything they could, and that's the horror aspect I feel that Mireles was bringing up a minute ago.
I
It's you're doing it all at a cost, until like you can't give anymore, and then after you're done, get out of here. Go live on the side of
Yeah,
the hill right there in
disposable.
a
Well,
shack that nobody lives in. You know?
it's I mean our bodies become the ultimate site of extraction, right?
Yeah,
In terms of
yeah.
that, and then we give all these things up. I think that it also goes back to Colton's question that he asked a while ago. He was talking about the relationship between third world and first world. It's important, like when you talk about something like Slumdog Millionaire, as we look at even in the film, you know, the uh the dinner that takes place between Rudy and his parents is a very different setting than the dinner that takes place between Memo and his family in the beginning of the movie, right? I mean, what we see is a sort of unchallenged, kind of easy prosperity, right? That
Yeah.
surrounds people that are on one side. I mean, think about it. If you think about too, even the ideas of surplus value, right? Or and doing wage labor. I mean, how much more money do you make? How much more value do you extract from somebody's labor if they're not even there, right? I
Mm,
mean, you're never going to have to pay a doctor bill, right? You're
yeah,
never going to have to pay workman's comp, I mean, you're never going to have to do any of these things. And so you have this area that is just like enriched, right? Whereas on the other side, you have all these people that are working themselves to death in extreme poverty. This country is surrounded by that,
yeah.
right? I mean, and so part of, I think that what we have to think about too is how is this a cautionary tale, right? Not just for Europeans, right? But for all of us, man, because we all live here. And so, I mean, we think about like, how do we deal with this? How do we become? And I mean, in the movie, we talked about Jacob Vargas, as Rudy the drone pilot going south. But I mean, the reality is that I mean, I think that's a movie thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not so sure that that's what happens in real life. Thinking about all of that, right? I think that particularly though, how the body becomes a site of extraction
I,
of value.
Hey, if
I
I could provide just another example about this kind of stuff, like how far you're gonna push your body to get a job done to get the money paid, you know? I'm working as a truck driver hauling fire ash debris out of like Pacific Palisades, out of Altadena, where these fires hit back in January. And they pushed us in. Well, they pushed us in there. We ran in there like it was a like a gold mine, gold rush. Hey, they're giving hours right now. You're gonna get 14 hours a day. You gotta be there at like this time in the morning, and you're gonna get out maybe at like 8, 9 at night. And we're running. Boom, we're picking up this garbage, basically, this toxic stuff. A lot of the times having asbestos because these are old houses, and we're driving them out to some part of LA somewhere, and you know there's discussions that are going. Initially, it was when is this going to get done? How fast is it going? How long is it going to take? And then we hauled ass and we did it. We're pretty much done clearing it out, and now it becomes like, when are we going to get paid for this the way we should? Because we did what we had to do, and our checks aren't coming out showing the work that we actually put in, which is like 10, 12, 13, 14 hours at the max, like 15, 16, and then that's just that. What about that we were breathing these things in as we were around it while they were demolishing it and lifting it and throwing it into our trucks? And we like touched these things. Like, I mean, maybe not literally like pick it up with our hands, but we're exposing ourselves to these things. And I guess what I'm saying is somewhere down the line, it's going to turn into all these workers that are helping clean up these, not necessarily Altadena. Altadena is very brown and black, but something like Pacific Palisades, we're cleaning their trash. We're cleaning up their a mess that's out there, and we're being told to do it as fast as we can. We're breathing in all the toxins, and it's gonna come up. Somebody's gonna have like some kind of cancer. The truck drivers, the people cleaning, like actually on the project, the workers, the laborers. What, like 15% of us like develop this like lung disease, or this like it didn't come without a cost, and this movie explored that idea, losing your eyesight because damn, you got to work.
if I can bring in like the Albuquerque, New Mexico perspective, I always come back to, and I'm trying to expand on the idea of the Xicanx nuclear Gothic. There is, in the American situation and in that scene at the table, that he's having dinner with his family,
Oh
that
yeah.
that was the fall of the House of Usher. There is something rotten, there is something sick and decaying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what I get out of a lot of the situations in the like there was the Gothic and then Southern Gothic. There should be very specifically Xicanx Gothic, and I know there's Mexican Gothic, that book, but in a wider sense, it's like on our side, my perspective is consistently yeah, Gothic. People are getting sick, strange things are happening. The body is the site of the horror.
Right.
The you don't trust your mind anymore. Yeah, I think that it's very dependent on our current technological situation, as the previous Gothic iterations were as well. Elindio, your situation reminds me of what I hear of Downwinders all the time. Gothic. Truly, truly horrific and Gothic.
But it's also the class climbing aspect. I mean, that's one thing that we've talked to, I mean, like the other guys here, about since the, I mean, in a sense, we've done this since the invasion, like trying to like leave the community, like climb out of it, and that's what success is. That's what, and
well, that's what survival is.
that's where survival is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what survival is. I think I was going to, but the other thing that made me think is like, the other thing, speaking of that, marrying white folks, is that our bodies are the battlefield, and our bodies are what marks us, right? Like if I walk into, even with a gringo father, I walk into some place, it's my Native American features that sets me apart, that might get me followed, that might get me, and so it's like
targeted.
We're targets, and like I come from like Native Californians as well, right? And so it's always weighs on me that I'm walking through an area that someone somewhat like me has been, but I am not welcome here. We're strangers in our own land and all that kind of thing. And that comes from our bodies, our body, like we don't fit in. You know how it goes. It's just like if you're outside anywhere where they think you should be, areas they that live in the monster lands of their imagination, which, as we know, you go there, it's like not nearly as many monsters as they think, though. A couple.
But there's so many shadows in the Gothic that monsters could be in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, really quickly, I thought when I heard the number put out there, somebody said 2014. Nah, homie, I looked it up and I knew it. This shit goes back to like 2000. It's released. It's set as 2008.
Yeah.
Which means that it was in production since like what 2006. It's that far back, and it's even just to show you how prophetic it was. This was before like Facebook took off as a number one, like social networking thing, and it took over Instagram. This was before like Bitcoin. This was before digital like money was really a thing. This thing back in 2008, which is the literal number that it puts out there, but it takes 2 years really, right? It's 2025 and we're reviewing it now and we're talking about how it relates today. This thing was 20 years ahead of its time, at least. Yeah, dude, this movie is something else, man.
And we don't have anything,
at least 8.
Yeah, and we don't have anything like else. That's the other thing that's so strange about it.
That's my other question.
Yeah, we don't have any Chicano movies since 2012, really.
Where is this guy? Where is this guy?
I'm a little disappointed that he's trying to make a Zorro movie that he failed. Now he's trying to make I think he's calling it El Coyote or something, but same story. It's set in post-apocalyptic LA. I couldn't figure out like how much further, because I saw him at a conference talk about it. He's a very interesting guy in what he's saying. That was a few years ago, and that's come to fruition now, as far as like how AI is actually freeing our community in their being creative, where you don't need a team.
I guess what I'm saying is like, Robert Rodriguez came out. Oh yeah, that movie was only $10,000 to make. Look, it's gonna make, and it made like whatever it did.
Yeah,
but it didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
I guess the reason why this guy hasn't come out, and he has it. This is the golden ticket right here, or not gold. Well, what I mean is this guy has a lot of like good shit, by this display, and that's it. Since
I'm a little surprised with that, but a lot of times what happens with Chicano filmmakers,
Uh-huh.
At least in they make their sweet indie movie, which again, not many, like since 2012, Mosquito Mari, and there's also what's his face doing Del Zamora doing The Last Brown Beret, which is
Yeah,
still not really released.
I just want to just real
Yeah.
quick. Alex Rivera isn't Chicano though; he's Puerto Rican.
No, he's not. Yeah, he's Puerto
Yeah,
Rican.
I
Yeah.
think it's important to say.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
important to say, but far as like people
He's
who
Rasa.
like
We could say he's
are
Rasa.
not,
well,
they say
he
Chicano.
is, but I mean, he's Puerter Rican,
Yeah,
right?
but I
And
would say
that's
most of the time, so like we most of the time don't get to tell our stories, but when we have directors like that, most of the time they do their movie and then they're working, um, like as some kind of assistant in Hollywood, like on a Hollywood show.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's him, but that's like when I looked into it, I was like, why is everyone now not doing their own stuff? They're all like doing, you know, um, uh, Boston Legal Part 8,
I
whatever the hell.
don't know, man. I guess I'm conspiratorial that way, but I feel like this fool had like the skill to do it and the mindset or the consciousness, and somebody like floated around him. Nah, it's not your time right now. You do something later.
I mean,
And he
okay.
needs to get out there and do his shit, man. The movie's like it's a blockbuster, man. Like,
Well, that's why the onus is on all Chicano creatives to do things, particularly, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't have,
Can't just be this guy. Yeah.
yeah, we don't have, it can't just be on one person, that hasn't done this, this movie, in X
yeah,
amount of years. We had to be
mm,
yeah.
driving ourselves up to do things, that are
Rising tide lifts
rising to
all
the
boats.
occasion.
Well,
Right.
rising tide lifts all boats, right? So
Exactly, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we also have to be a good audience for our own culture, which I tell people that, and it's just like what they don't get it. I don't understand. Like you got to be interested in Chicano literature and Chicano movies and Chicano everything, And why should I get your stuff if you never support anybody else?
yeah.
If I
yeah.
told somebody didn't like it.
Well, I can say very easily that yes, I do recommend the movie. I wish that there was uh, an update or something. I would love to see a student film that takes all of the same ideas and then just says, this is the dam has been rebuilt. Something like that, where he goes south. This is an incredible movie, though.
Yeah. Also, I agree with Colton. 100% echo the sentiment. I heartily recommend this movie to anyone, really. It's in Spanish, so I mean, if you don't speak Spanish, you're gonna have to turn the subtitles on. But I think the subtitles are pretty good, to be real honest. The other thing too is that this is, for me, a very layered film. There's a lot happening in this
Yeah.
movie, and if you particularly like, I use it in class every semester. We watch this film. It's standard because it helps students, particularly those who are very interested in like Chicanic studies, to really begin to see how this knowledge or this information is applied beyond the classroom, which I think is really the struggle for all of us, right? Is that we need to understand why, not just what the history is, but why it's important and why it's important to the particular moment that we're in. And I think this movie does a good job with that. So yeah, watch Sleep Dealer by Alex Rivera.
Well, I hated it. I'm just joking. Five chili pepper. I give it five chili peppers.
Five
I
chili
want
peppers.
I want to take one off though, just because it's the only one.
Yeah.
Because how do we do? It's good, but there's nothing to compare it to.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I recommend it. It brings up a lot of issues, a lot of like feelings. I grew up in Southern California. There my family's involved in a few of these things as well. And yeah, and like I was saying, like just seeing people that are brown in these sci-fi settings in a good movie about it, it's very shocking. I don't know, not shocking, but you don't know quite what to do with it because you're seeing it for almost the first time, where it's not like some glitzy side character for like Marvel or whatever the hell. That I'll watch that someday, but I have to check it out.
Listen, man, I'm always thinking about my pa, because he's in a box. His market, like in terms of movies, like, can I take my dad to this movie? He's gonna like it. Is he gonna understand? And he's predominantly Spanish speaking, but he knows English. But even knows English, like, you know, is this movie that I'm gonna show my dad or ask him to look at? Is he gonna get it? And this movie got it. And you don't have to be like this, that, or the other, because evidently we're all like limited with our Spanish language skills, and we got it. My dad, like I said, when I think about, like, entertainment, like, what would my dad think of this? Would he get it? He would get it, even though it's about technology and this, sci-fi stuff, porqueria, my dad would call it. Like, it's just, what does that have to do with anything? I think, and I haven't done it yet. Yeah. Hey, pa, esta explica, like, this movie, like, pica, dude. Like, it really does. Like, you're gonna get it because there's nothing in there that he hasn't seen, that he hasn't done himself, that he can't relate to. And it's a shame that, yeah, there's not more of this. But yeah, if the yeah, come on, man, it's thumbs up. But in other words, si pica. This thing, like, it really hits, It's good shit, man. Like, I wish we had more of this stuff.
This is the Reality Dysfunction.